it's Naomi and Travis, and we decided to do our spotlight video portion as a bit of an interview. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds
okay.
good.
So you can start. You can ask me a question, and then I'll ask you a question.
Okay, so we'll start with, how did the film challenge or change you?
Well, I think for me, there was abuse in my family, and so the real challenge for me was just to actually go there. Watch the film, go back to those memories, reflect on that time in my life when my family was going through it. That was hard for me, but I think that you have to dig deep and sometimes have those uncomfortable conversations in order to grow. And I feel like I did that in watching the film. How did it challenge or change you?
For me, I'm not quite as good as talking off the top of my head like Naomi here. So what I'm going to say for the film challenges and changes that it would put forward for me is to be diligent and resolve those issues as they happen, especially when they're moral and ethical in nature, and they need to be addressed because they are the most important. Also, I think that the film just makes you want to know that sometimes something looks good but may not be as good as you think it in the background, and you always have to be insightful for the future and what could be coming your way.
That's true. I went to school for journalism, and which is funny because this is about news, but they did say that make sure that you're super informed and that you have the right information. So if you don't have the answers, you can always go to multiple sources.
That is true. So as a result, what is your reflection on leadership?
Well, I think, like I was saying, it's so important to start at the very top. I take it very seriously that I am a leader and that it starts with me, and that it's my job to then have it go down so that everyone creates a culture that is properly reflecting, just in our lives, like my children or my home or my work or everything. It starts at the top. It starts with me. We want to create the right kind of culture, just like we learned about, head, heart, hands, habits of leadership. You want to put it all together and really be able to just create that desired culture. And no matter where you're at in the totem pole, it's your job to make sure that your actions are reflecting your values and your missions, just like we talked about, especially with our group projects. So
yeah.
For me personally, it's just asking those hard questions, going to those tough places, and feedback. You're a business owner, so right? When things aren't going so great and we have to have a meeting about it.
Yeah.
It sucks.
I don't like doing them, but you gotta do it.
But we have to do it, right? And that's where we grow and we improve as a company and as people. But what about you? Enough of me. How do you reflect?
First I'm going to say I agree with that, because if the heart and the head are not in line, you're going to have issues.
Yeah, for sure. But on a leadership standpoint, how did the film affect you?
The film for leadership, my reflection is leadership is hard, and sometimes it takes being there and being present and confronting what is hard, and especially when it's hard, because knowing how to pick your battles and when to act or only provide creative insight is important. In this case, in the movie, it was extremely important, because if this had not been brought to light by the media, it doesn't seem like the church would have been bringing it forward and coming forward with it anytime soon, and that could be much more hurtful and definitely not leading from the heart or the hand like they should, or the head like they should.
I liked what you said about, picking your battles. It's like a marriage. You have to, it is, because you're leading, and you really have to know when to push and not, because we have to do that every day in our relationship, and so I value that. And you got to know when to stick to your guns and when to be like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna let this one go. You know,
Or just agree to disagree.
agree to disagree. We've done that too, let me tell you that. But one thing that was really interesting to me anyway is that, I mean, I wrote my paper and it was kind of from a personal reflective place, you know, based on my family and my schooling and whatnot. But you're a stats guy, you're a numbers guy, and
Yeah,
and
she's
you and you really, like, you know, when you were working on your paper and we were talking, you really went there with the stats and the actual research of the story, even more so above and beyond the paper. Like, did you want to add anything from that? Because I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I
We had
added
some good chats about that.
a little bit of information. I shouldn't be looking at my phone while we're trying to do
No.
this, so I will be telling that person I'll call them back.
Call them back.
But what I was going to say is I tend to go down the rabbit hole of research and find other articles that pertain to something I'm looking at, because I just can't look at one source. But one of the big issues here is John Grogan, however they want to say it, he was actually charged and convicted and went to jail, and
Yeah, and you said he even died.
he
didn't
paid
he?
for it in the worst way. He was in jail, and he had an argument with one of the other inmates, and later that inmate trapped him in his cell and beat him to death. So because of the choices we make, in this case, there was a very tragic end.
But you know what's crazy about that to me is, like, even criminals, like even people that are already in jail, like when it comes to the topic of abuse, like even criminals are like no tolerance, you know,
Well, especially like sexual abuse with children. I don't
Yeah.
think anybody that's properly informed is into that.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting piece, and there are multiple news sources and things that confirm that, which is kind of crazy. But
And then,
I agree with you. I agree with you. It's, you got to go there, and I appreciate that you took the time to really look at the full story, even beyond the film, because it was based on a real story.
yeah, and that's why I did that. And then one of the other things I looked up, and this is, keep in mind, this is like, this kind of brings to light how bad the situation actually was. If you take only the top 10 cases between 2003 and 2011, the Catholic Church paid out over $1.5 billion in damages to over 2,400 people who were involved, and that's 2,400 people, 2,458 to be exact, that have to deal with that psychological abuse going forward, and how to learn how to love themselves, and if you're Christian, have faith in that church or something, to still have faith when the person that should have been there for you, teaching you, was there touching you instead.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. It really does kind of take me back to, you know, when I was a child. It did not happen to me, but it happened within my family, and then we just didn't talk about it. And so just going there, like,
Yeah, that's
it's
hard.
it's kind of triggering. Yeah, it's kind of triggering for me. And, you know, the crazy thing is, even in the film, they mentioned like 6% of priests. Well, that's hundreds of people. Like, where do you draw that line that makes it okay? Oh, it's only 6%. Well, only 6% ends up being like hundreds of priests and thousands of people, and, you know, that ripple is so huge. And if you're going to turn a blind eye for even one situation, you know, that's just as wrong as turning a blind eye to hundreds of situations, in my opinion.
It should have been addressed as soon as it was brought present, and as soon as the Archbishop, Cardinal Law, knew even the idea that was happening. It should have been confronted and addressed with those individuals.
Yeah, lots of reflection for sure. But I think that's my main takeaway, and I appreciate that you took the time to do this with me together.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's creative, it's fun. Brenda, you're gonna miss us. But thank you for listening, and I'm good. Are you good?
I am good.
I'm good.
Signing
Thank
off
you.
here, Brenda.
Bye.
Thank you.